In Chapter 4, we begin in Section 4.4 to factor. Now in 4.4, we're just going to factor, we're not going to solve. When we get to the notes on 4-5, in the back here, you're actually going to solve as well. But let's start with just factoring. Now we've done some warm-ups in Algebra 2 of how to factor, but let's just make sure you remember those little quirks. You ready? First you need to find A, then B, then C. After you find A, B, and C, you need to find AC. Now if any of you had me in 9th grade when I taught you how to factor, you might be using the guess and check method, which is perfectly fine. If you need a refresher on that, just let me know. Alright, in this case, A is 6 because it's in front of x squared. B is -5 because it's in front of x. And C is the constant at the end, -4. When you do AC, you do A times C, so we're going to do 6 times -4. And that gives us -24. Okay. Now that we've done those, the most important thing to identify are B and AC. You make a sheet, or a chart, excuse me. You list the factors. List the factors of -24. After you list the factors of -24, you have to find such factors so that they add to -5. Okay, well some ideas might be -6 and 4 because that multiplies to -24. Unfortunately, when you add those, you get a -2. Therefore, this cannot be your answer. Maybe you're thinking of 12 and -2. Well, 12 times -2 is -24, but when you add them, you get a +10. The correct answer is a -8 and a +3. -8 times +3 is -24, and when you add them, you get a -5. You have to be really careful with your signs. In Algebra 1, you learned that the next step is to rewrite. You keep 6x squared. You no longer keep -5x. You change it into -8x, see where my circle came from, plus 3x. And then you go back and you write -4 after that. If you want to draw an arrow so you know where that came from, it might be a good idea. Then you look at the first two terms, and then you look at the second two terms. You kind of see them as two separate things here. What is the GCF of the first two terms? Hopefully you're able to see that it's a 2 and an x. Now when I say GCF, I'm saying what's the biggest thing that goes into this and this. So you divide out a 2x, or factor out a 2x. You'll be left with 6 divided by 2 is a 3, and x squared divided by x is a 3x. -8 divided by 2 is a -4, and x divided by x goes away. What's common between 3 and 4? The only thing I can think of is a 1, so you write +1. See that sign I'm pointing at? You always drop it down. When you divide by 1, you get 3x. When you divide by 1, you get -4. Now take a look at the two parentheses. You should notice that the two parentheses are exactly the same. See those? They're exactly the same. Since that happens, you bring that parenthesis out front, and you finish by writing what is left over behind it. So here's the 3x minus 4. See the 2x? It drops here. See the +1? It drops here. There is how you factor. Just so you know, it would not matter if you wrote the 3x here and the -8x here, you still would have got the same answer. It just would be in reverse of mine, which is still correct. In the next problem, I made sure that at the very beginning there's a GCF. You should notice that in the top, there's nothing that goes into all three of those numbers. Whereas on the bottom, this problem, there's a 4, that you should pull out at the very beginning. So 36, because 4 goes into each of those numbers. 36 factor out of 4 makes 9x squared. 24 factor out of 4 makes 6x. And 4 factor of 4 makes 1, not 0. Some people think it disappears, but it makes a 0. It makes a 1. Now that we have that GCF out here, we can find A, which is 9. You no longer use this top one once you use your GCF. You find B, which is 6. You find C, which is 1. And you find A times C, so you do 9 times 1, which equals 9. We are now going to focus on B and AC. I need factors of AC. So I need factors of 9. They need to add to 6. So what multiplies to 9 that adds to 6? You might think 9 and 1, but that adds to 10. That can't be right. So hopefully your next thought is 3 and 3, which adds to 6. And now we found our answer. It's now time to rewrite. We're going to save that 4 for the very end. If you want to write it out here and put a star by it so you don't forget, it might be a good idea. Keep the 9x squared. Do not keep the 6x anymore. Change the 6x to these two. So a plus 3x and a plus 3x. You should notice that that would have made a 6x, so that's still okay. Plus a 1. Now divide this kind of in half. What's the GCF of those two? A 3 and an x. So you factor out a 3 and an x. 9x squared factor 3x is 3x. Plus 3x divided by 3x is plus 1. On this one, bring your plus sign down. What goes into 3 and 1? Nothing except for a 1. Divide by 1, you get 3x. Divide by 1, you get another 1. You should notice now that the parentheses are the same. That should happen, or else A, you did it wrong, or B, it doesn't factor, but probably A, you probably did it wrong. Take out that 3x plus 1 and write what you are left with. You are going to be left with this 3x and this plus 1. At the very end, you just need to make sure that you show that there was a GCF of 4 on the outside.